I only watched UFOs Past, Present, and Future recently, which is a documentary that allegedly originally was going to be put out to declassify UFO information. And they did. It's actually weird going back and watching it, how much information they let out from that in the 70s. But I guess the folklore is that originally they were actually going to show UFO landing at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. And supposedly, and some military people have not confirmed nor denied this, that at one point there was a UFO that supposedly landed there, and there may have been a face-to-face meeting. Do you know anything about this, and what did you think about that movie?
It's certainly part of the UFO lore that this was a plan. And, I've heard different versions of the story, but I've heard that obviously Disney were put up to do this because everyone trusts Disney, and people were talking about, let's get Walter Cronkite to be the voice of it because, he was the voice of America. And so the plan, according to this theory, was that this was the way to get this out slowly to the public as part of an acclimatization program, that you drip feed this information out bit by bit, and that this wasn't quite official disclosure with the president saying, my fellow Americans, people of the world, we're not alone. But it's maybe a stepping stone on the way to that, if you can get Disney and Walter Cronkite and eventually put something at Epcot, for example. I've heard those stories. I can't validate all of it, but there's a certain logic that you would want to do it bit by bit, not all at once, particularly if there is part of this which is unsettling for people for whatever reason.
Do you think that there have been face-to-face meetings? Because I heard Jim Semivan from To the Stars Academy, who had a long career in the CIA as an operative, say recently that he does actually believe that. That would be his hypothesis, that at some point there have been face-to-face meetings and agreements made.
I don't rule it out. And again, there's a certain logic about that. If you're dealing civilization to civilization, even though clearly any visiting extraterrestrials are orders of magnitude ahead of ourselves. That said, if you wanted, for example, as many allege, to effectively allow cattle mutilations to happen, abductions to happen, and of course there would be a quid pro quo, and many believe that the quid pro quo was us acquiring technologies which enabled the United States to win the Cold War, whether that's night vision goggles, Kevlar, stealth, fiber optics, if you go back a bit further, the transistor, and all of that. So yeah, it would make sense that if there has been a protracted program involving visitation and interaction, that at some stage part of that would be a top level meeting where the parameters of this relationship are effectively negotiated out between the two parties, us and them.